Morning, everyone, and welcome to Avero's live stream. We really need a better name for the live stream, but today I have some really exciting guests with me, and I'm super thrilled to have this in our brand spanking new studio in Knoxville. So it's a great day. It's a fantastic session, and we're going to have a great time today. Before we go on, I want to quickly remind you of the comment box, the chat box. Tell us where you're joining from. Megan's here in the background taking questions and comments. And so just tell us where you're joining in from and send us any questions you might have. So our guests today are folks from UKG. We have Mr. Jamie Haskins, National Director of Sales for Public Sector, and Linda Misegadis, who is the Government Strategist for UKG. Guys, welcome to Knoxville, welcome to Avero, and welcome to the show.
Our pleasure.
Thanks so much. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Great.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we've worked really hard on this space and excited to have this first live stream here. Before we go on, I want to introduce Avero again for those that are joining the first time. Avero is a third-party independent consulting firm that helps government agencies pick the right software, implement the right software, and help them modernize their operations through the use of better business process planning, redesign, and implementing software like UKG. And I'll remind you that we are independent third party, and we are going to do these sessions with all of the vendors in the marketplace today. And our goal is to bring the most recent developments in the market and news to you, the people that are in the market for HRIS systems or ERP systems. And we want to be your trusted partner. So with that, guys, I'll open it up. And if you want to quickly give your introductions, where you've been and how you ended up in this role at UKG.
Yeah, sure. I've been with UKG for 11 years now, but 30 years in the software industry, a large stint in the outsourcing payroll world, and prior to that, a smaller boutique software operation. So all along, just trying to identify pain and solve those problems with technology.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
thanks for having us.
Thank you. Welcome here. Linda?
Well, I've been with UKG for about 15 years now, and I actually have been in the industry for, gosh, over 30 years now. Started out a good part of my career in the private sector, but I've always been in human resources, payroll, finance, software selection. I ended up working for the City and County of Denver as a Director of Payroll Operations and Administration there, which then led me to my path here at UKG, and here I am all these years later leading our government strategy.
That's awesome. So I think one of the first things I want to talk about today is market trends and what you guys are seeing in the market. There's a lot of buzz around best of breed solutions. We talk a lot about ERP systems, and UKG sells HRIS and payroll platforms. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, Jamie, in the market and how the marketplace may be changing.
Yeah, I think it's all about narrative.
Yeah.
And narrative sometimes can drive decisions strongly one way or the other, but there's a living, breathing, best of breed option that local governments really need to be embracing and have been from our perspective. When you think about it, we see a demarcation line in between business systems, so your finance, GL, all the cashiering, all the utility billing aspects of a local government, but then harnessing people systems with a UKG solution where you're having a cohesive user experience for not only employees but also supervisors.
Linda?
Well, and I think what I would add to what Jamie said there is that it's interesting because the very organizations like your Tier 1 SIs have been promoting the concept of best of breed for, gosh, probably 20 years. Yeah. The problem with that concept at the time was, we're working off mainframe technology solutions. And so the integration of those platforms and the cost to have multiple stacks, it was expensive and it was complicated. With the addition of cloud-based technology, it really opens up the opportunity to do true best of breed so that you really are finding the right systems for what you need within your organization. And part of what we're seeing is it's a slow move, but we're starting to see more adoption of the idea of utilizing true best of breed where you have enterprise platform. So you utilize the ERP as your primary platform, but then you bring in the other solutions that you need to actually meet the requirements for the business.
And do you think the expectations of the workforce, especially in the public sector, has the expectation changed from what they want from their day-to-day HR software?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
COVID changed
I think
that.
if you just look at
Yeah.
just statistically, 59% of employees in the public sector would leave their job if they were given an opportunity to work
Oh, wow.
somewhere else. So if that's not creating a talent crisis to find the right people that have a heart for public sector, to help them have a meaningful and fulfilling career, a trusted career, where they feel like they are empowered to do their work and to drive services to tax constituents. So that's in the end, that's what we're striving to achieve.
Right.
Well, and I think what you also saw is post-COVID. So
Yeah.
pre-COVID, you know, the reality of government is the difference between it and private sector. There's a lot, but one of the things is that there is still a political component. And frankly, people systems and HR technology, it's not that sexy. You're not going to run your platform on, you know, I'm bringing in a new ERP solution.
Yeah.
But what we saw post-COVID is that there was, to Jamie's point now, is there's a talent crisis, there's a shortage of workers. Government is really struggling to attract and retain employees, and we're seeing a real focus on people systems, which is why, you know, we're so proud of what we do, because that is 100% what our solutions are based off of, our people first, technology second.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because it's an HRIS platform, right? You from hiring to firing and payroll and compliance.
Yeah.
How do you insert the people aspect into that? And how do you make it, to use your word, sexy? I know you're not going to attract employees because you have a spanking new system, but can you? Or how do you see this?
Think about it just generationally. We have Gen Z who's grown up on technology. Millennials have grown up on technology. If they're confronted with a job requisition where they have to fill out just extensive amounts of information and then wait weeks, sometimes months, for that to cycle through the public sector process. So by that time, they found another opportunity. So that engagement, the intersection of technology to those acquisitions is very, very important.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even though another uniqueness about government is that they're a single employer with multiple industries.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's still a single employer. And so being able to have that visibility across the entire organization. So for example, in a talent shortage, and when you're dealing with attracting and retaining employees, sometimes the best place to look is in your own backyard. And by having people-based systems that really kind of take a look at skills across the organization, I might find out that I didn't even know about Jamie, and Jamie's got all the skills I need to fill that position. So being able to bring that forward, it's going to be a real game changer, I think, for how we can look at talent across government.
Awesome. Now, I want to talk a little bit about UKG's product roadmap without, you don't have to reveal any secrets on here, but how does UKG plan to incorporate AI? I mean, everyone's talking about AI. You have to find your place within the AI ecosystem. What's new and latest at UKG?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about AI, it's really easy to get commoditized in the marketplace because it is a buzzword right now. I saw a lot of competitive solutions trying to use ChatGPT as their first entry into that. And we know there's some exposure there by putting data out on those platforms.
Right.
So we look at it as responsible AI, and the data set that we're using, it's only as good as the data that you're feeding it.
Right.
So UKG has about 80,000 customers. We also have Great Places to Work, which is a UKG entity. So we have 30 years of employee surveys, so just think of that for a minute. 30 years of what each employee expects of their employer, and ways for those employees to really appreciate and have fulfilling careers. Whether it's growing within that organization, like Linda said, and reskilling in some cases, because we've seen a lot of shifts in the skills required, and I think we'll still see that shift with AI. But to net it out, we're looking at the responsible aspects of it, and really a interactive AI component. We call it UKG Bright, because our future is bright. And it really is a conversational AI trusted sidekick.
Right. That's fascinating. So who is the end user for UKG Bright? Is it me, the new employee?
Yeah, it can be you, the
Yeah.
new employee, it can be the manager, and it can be the back office, human resources. So it really is intended, again, to be in the hands of people, so that, from me as an employee, let's say I'm out on the weekend skiing and I break my leg. In the past, I might have to wait until Monday to contact my HR person to figure out what do I do, and I've got to submit a leave case. So now, as an employee, I literally could just log into the system and check to see what my benefits are, where do I go, what do I do, and I can even get the whole process started for my leave case all before I show, before anybody knows that I broke my leg over the weekend type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'll take it a step further. Like, think about just a life event change. We have the ability to load all your employee manuals, all of their processes and things of that nature can be loaded into Bright, so you can conversationally just ask it, hey, I've had a new child, what do I need to do? And it'll spit it out in very common communicative language. So think about it the other way. The old way of doing that is you have to go find your employee manual, and you have to search through that and see what you can find. And it's just a little much different interaction with technology.
Absolutely.
Well, and this is helping workforce not only from access to information, but also you're helping the talent shortage, because you may not have a person that oversees your benefits.
Correct.
You may have to call a vendor. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, and we see a lot of turnover too. So being able to be able to plan for that turnover, and we have the ability to look where there might be fatigue issues within an organization using AI. We can even identify if someone's been taking a considerable amount of PTO, there might be an issue there that needs to be resolved. Maybe they're a flight risk. So it's really endless. We've had about 2,500 different data models running within our AI processes, and we've been in this since 2015, really early on efforts.
I'm going to quickly ask if there's any comments.
Yes,
and questions.
So we do. We have one question. How does UKG ensure that the AI they're using is responsible?
I think you just answered that, but I'll let you. And the question is, how does UKG make sure that the AI you're employing is responsible?
That's the foundation of everything that we're doing. We have guidelines set around that. The data is our data, and it's world-class data. So we're also work closely with Google as our hosting partner, so generative AI, and be able to have access to that large language models from there as well. So it really starts at the foundation of everything we're doing with AI. And that's what I would caution. A lot of vendors tried to lunge out too quickly and potentially expose. So we're doing it the right way. We think we are.
Yeah, but it's always about trust and confirm, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to run your own audits. You also have to be responsible when it comes to the utilization of AI, because the technology is only as good as the people that are using it. So
Right, and it's changing so quickly that you have to keep up and set your own standards around it.
absolutely, yeah.
I want to remind the viewers that we go live every Wednesday morning. Today's Tuesday, but most of the time we're on Wednesdays. And then this content is available on our YouTube channel, on our social media, on our website, in different formats. So go take advantage of all of the wonderful stuff we put out. And also, we have our 2025 report out that has a listing of the top systems in the market, the technologies to implement and think about in 25, and how to deal with AI in your own organization. And we're also launching our own AI consulting practice. So please reach out if these are the questions you're grappling with as far as your organization is concerned. Back to scheduled programming. Our clients, where we position ourselves is independent. We help our clients pick the right products, and a lot of times we help them shepherd the process through the RFP process and helping them negotiate the right contracts. So if our clients are watching this, they'd want to know what sets UKG apart, because there are other HR-specific offerings on the market with some really big stickers and logos. So how do you guys see yourself, and how should people looking at HRIS platforms look at UKG?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the roots of the people systems background, the 40 years of experience, and the frontline worker understanding. So that's really the distinctive difference with us. If you think about, we created the first time clock that had a microprocessor in it. Just think about that, all the way back to an MIT grad, one of our founders. So and the inclusion of just the depth of human capital management capabilities. An ERP, to think that one product can be the master across that entire enterprise, just think about it. From utility billing to cashiering to GL to AP to AR, and now you're going to step into workforce management, human capital management, scheduling, public safety scheduling, all those aspects to it. So it's a lot. So we feel like there's a very solid approach to isolate those people systems, have a GL feed to your financial environment, and really realize the best of both worlds. It's really tough.
When I'd say the other thing that really sets us apart as well is our industry expertise. We hire people directly out of the industry. I came from government. That's where I worked. That's what I understand. We understand our customers, and that's true whether you're in manufacturing, healthcare, retail. To Jamie's point, we've been doing this for over 40 years, and the depth and breadth of knowledge we have related to industries is just unsurpassed in the marketplace today. And the other side of that, just to kind of tag off of what Jamie was saying there, is that most ERP solutions are rooted in financials. That's what started ERPs. They had nothing to do with human systems. Human systems were bolted on later, and that's really indicative of the majority of your ERP solutions in the marketplace today. And so to Jamie's point, they're really good at finance. There are some amazing solutions out there, but most of them are not focused on the human side or the people side. Also, ERP solutions are really designed to be foundational technology for the back office. They're not focused in on the front line, the people who are actually engaging with employees and constituents or customers on a day-to-day basis. They're really, those solutions are to collect all that data, compile it, and send a message back to the central. We need solutions, and that's what our focus is on the people who are dealing with the work on a day-to-day basis and need access to that information.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, you've got Parks and Rec, you've got Public Works, you've got correctional officers, police, fire, 911 communications, EMS. All the aspects to running a local government are very intricate, very detailed, and we know that quite well.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And so you mentioned public safety, and one of the problems that we've seen with public safety modernization projects is the uniqueness with which each public safety department, office, sheriff's office, police department functions.
Bargaining agreements, union rules are what drive those treatment of those hours. So most times they're paid by schedule. So if it's just a raw schedule, we don't know how to treat those hours yet. So that's why there needs to be methodologies to interpret that before it goes downstream to payroll. So that's really our whole. We've got some different solutions specifically around that telestaff, which is just a phenomenal product in that space.
Well, and public safety is foundationally different. It is a completely different industry in the way that it operates. And so to approach it as if to say we can just roll our police department into whatever we're doing is a real lack of understanding of how police department operates. And so I think, again, really taking that deep knowledge of the industry comes in because we understand how police departments operate. Fire, sheriffs, correctional facilities, they're so different. Not only are they 24/7, to Jamie's point, the collective bargaining, but collective bargaining in and of itself isn't even all that unique, right? A lot of industries have collective bargaining. It's the reasoning behind that collective bargaining and the rules and the expectations that they have related to that. So I do think you have to understand the business in order to effectively bring the technology forward.
And you add, because they work extensive hours and extra duty pay, sometimes there's add-on opportunities where there's income opportunities, but we also need to keep an eye on the fatigue. So it's a complex model, and I think we're on the pulse of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the implementation process, right? Clients are also interested in how this rolls out.
Sure.
They may have a financial product they're really happy with, not happy with its HR component.
Yeah.
I guess this is a twofold question. One is, how do you integrate with most systems out there, or do you? And second is your partner ecosystem. I guess we can get to that later on the implementation side. Let's talk about the integrations.
I mean, if, like I said, 80,000 customers, We're not doing finance.
Right.
So we do integrations with almost every platform out there. We've seen it. Whether they're mainstream ERP specific in public sector, we've done those hundreds of times. I'm trying not to mention any specific names,
Right.
but there are some significant players in public sector. But yeah, it's we have two methodologies. We have Dell Boomi, which is an API layer within our solutions, which is more real-time in nature. So if you have a specific business need that requires that, we could go down that path. And traditionally, flat files is what's passed back and forth using the Dell Boomi communication and scheduler layer. But it really satisfies the business need in most cases.
Well, and I would say, really kind of what you were talking about there too is we might have a customer who is, to your point, their finance system is working great. You know, why are we going to be disruptive there? But a lot of times when they head down the path of looking for software, all of a sudden it's, oh, we've got to rip and replace the entire solution, which just isn't true. To Jamie's point, we've been front-ending solutions for ERP solutions forever. But I think that there's a great opportunity to really take a look at that. And the beauty of that is it's, we can come in, take a look, do business analysis, identify where those gaps are, and then we can integrate back to those ERP finance solutions, and everything can work really nicely together in our platform. So
yeah, and we have some reseller type arrangements as well with specific ERP providers. Central Square is one of those. They have a significant number of public sector deployments where the business systems would reside with Central Square, and then we can augment that, the people systems with UKG. Also OpenGov's another one of those as well that we've done some direct integrations, more certified type integrations with. But yeah, I think it's, when you look at the marketplace in general, there's a risk of vendor lock-in, kind of like a purgatory. So if you pick a vendor and you pick the wrong ERP, you're hostage to that for a significant period of time, 10, 15 years. So that's where we ask that, the marketplace really needs to pause a little bit and get some composure around what are you really trying to achieve. We're trying to humanize that software as much as we can because these are people, and our purpose is people. That is our key foundation of what we do. So I think that's really it, is trying to dial into that.
Well, and I think one of the things, and this is really a role that the advisory can really play in this, is that there has to be a thought process, a shift in thought process in how government views software as well, because they are used to the on-premise mainframe. We own the system, we own the data, and it's a huge investment. Hence why you saw systems in place. When I worked for the city, we had our solution in place for over 20 years. And so SaaS has changed the game. And you don't have to be married to that solution forever. So if it's not working for you, guess what? Change solutions. Private sector's been doing that forever, flipping around to the different technology based on their requirements. SaaS has just changed the game. Government's just been a little slower on the adoption of that. And I don't mean to imply that it's easy to just switch out technologies, but it's much easier to switch out SaaS-based technology than it was when you're talking about mainframe technology.
Yeah, you're talking about multi-year deployments with an ERP. We're talking about a 6 to 9 month time to value. Just think about that for a minute. A people system up and running and being able to really change that whole dimension of the local government operation.
And to your earlier point, it's about narratives.
Yes.
And when you say 6 months, it's kind of a really, right? A client looks at it, a CIO looks at it and says, there's no way you can do this in 6 months. Right? There's a lot of skepticism because of historical methodologies and how it has been done before. And then I don't know what you're seeing, but HR seldom leads a modernization effort, right? They don't seem to have an equal part of the process.
Yeah, that's definitely what we are seeing. If you think about it in the private sector, HR would definitely be at the boardroom table, right? Because people is crucial to driving revenue, driving operational performance. The same thing needs to happen in public sector. HR's voice needs to rise up right now and be a part of those conversations. And the selection process and the overall local government, what are your turnover rates? What are your strategic imperatives? What are the platforms? Is it We want clean parks and recs. We want a public safety presence. We want to feel safe. We want good business commerce. We want great job opportunity. I mean, that's probably the platforms of most mayors, right? So you can't drive those services without the people element.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and in most organizations, HR has their finger on the pulse of the business.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I want to understand how our police department was working, I didn't go talk to the chief of police. I went and talked to the HR department because they could let me know what was really going on. And that was indicative of every department that I worked with at the city as I went and talked directly to HR to understand what was driving the business. But to your point, they would not have had a seat at the table had we not invited them to have a seat at the table to get those initiatives done. So,
And one of our core offerings is strategic planning around ERP implementations, modernization, overall IT modernization. I think the first step we take and we recommend our clients take is just take a look at what you have. You know, whiteboard everything and see where your infrastructure is, what are your applications, who's doing what, because a lot of times you go down this implementation paths for a modern system and you find out there's this one little thing that someone built for a process 20 years ago and it's become this linchpin of the whole process.
Absolutely.
And the whole thing is at risk of falling apart because you didn't identify it. So start with an ERP strategy, an HRIS strategy, and then you can figure out what order and how much you're going to pay and what is the long-term I wouldn't say return on investment because government doesn't really matter. It's the total cost of ownership that's
we
most
want
important.
to contain cost so that you don't want cost creep. So oftentimes with ERP deployments, especially the tier 1 ERP deployments, you got to figure out how you're going to maintain it ongoing. Is that going to be a shared service type of situation? Is it going to be you're going to bring on specialized employees to do that? It's not just the initial acquisition of the product. And then we see situations too that there's some organizations that have a higher technical skill set in-house that maybe they could handle a UKG direct implementation. But if there's a situation where they need a little bit more white glove type of service, that's where our certified implementation partners come in.
But you know, one thing that you said, Evie, that I just love because it's so important. I watch this all the time that customers go down the path of looking at technology to solve their problems. Technology does not solve any of your problems. It really takes that opportunity to take a step back, look at what you're doing, understand your organizational structure, but what are your outcomes? What are you trying to achieve? Just changing your technology isn't going to change your business. You have to take the time to really evaluate your processes. What are you willing to change? Because otherwise, you're going to be sorely disappointed in the technology when it doesn't magically change everything that you were expecting it to because you never took the time to look at your organization. So.
And one point too, just commercial off the shelf, these aren't custom solutions. These are solutions that have very deep functional roots within them that we can just identify which dials we need to turn on and off to achieve your outcome. So it's very rich in capability. So an HR product is not an HR product is what I'm saying.
So I want to pose a question to the audience. Best of breed or all-in-one ERP? Tell me what you think. Just use the chat box to send your comments, and I'm curious about where the marketplace and the audience is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of questions. You guys ready?
Okay,
You're in the
let's
hot
do
seat.
it.
You're in the hot seat now. Okay, so first, can you elaborate on how HCM can integrate to ERP and financials?
Sure. Do you want to?
Go ahead and take it. And
Okay.
I'll
All right.
fill the
Sounds
gap.
good. Well, really, if you think about what your HCM solution is even though you have the back-end financial component, which is obviously important from your HCM perspective, but the reality of it is that the finance is the finance, right? It's the data that's feeding in. You have that HR component that sits on the front end of that. And so being able to utilize your HCM system on the front end, looking at your people records, your workforce management, your time, your payroll, all of that is the front end part of your entire operation. then that information is just going to easily integrate over into your ERP solution from benefits. If you're utilizing the ERP, maybe you're using the benefits in your ERP. That's okay. We can integrate that data in and do that from a payroll perspective. Maybe you're going to continue running your payroll solution through your ERP. Well, that's okay because we can handle all the workforce management components, and guess what? We're just going to send the data over into your ERP solution. Again, I will always argue the fact that ERPs are foundational technology. There's not a company, organization, government out there that isn't going to need an ERP solution. It's like the foundation of your house. But is it your HCM solution? Is it the right solution for that? In many cases, it's not. Hence why integration comes into play. But
yeah,
I don't know,
the only thing I would add
yours
is that, you know, we talk about GL feeds. We're not
Mhm.
trying to simplify it. That's one of the aspects of integrations, but there's various demographic data information that might need to flow back and forth.
Absolutely.
It's nothing different than if we're not tapping the ERP, it might be another third-party system that they have
Exactly.
within their enterprise.
Right.
So that data in and out is a commonplace within all of these modern cloud-based solutions.
And you know, you have to define all of that up front, right?
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
can't
Yep.
go into a solicitation or a purchase of a system
Right.
without having thought about where the integration points are,
Absolutely.
right? And that's something that independent consultants can do for you, or
Yes.
I'm sure your partners do
Mhm.
during the implementation process. But you can get to a point in the implementation where you say, oh, we didn't think about this interface
Yeah.
point.
No, exactly. And I think that's a really good point. And don't go into it just assuming because
Right.
I said I could integrate with any solution. Do your
Yeah.
homework. Make sure. And also, some solutions integrate more easily with others
Yeah.
than you know. So it's important, to your point, do your homework. The responsibility is on you as the purchaser. So.
And we've got some great videos that will be linked into the chat box here about data integrations and migration. There was a video I did, or a live stream with someone from the SAP universe that said, old data is baggage. It's your emotional baggage. You may not
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
It's not always true for HCM systems, though,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You
there
need
may
historical
be some
data.
compliance
You do
data
need
there
it.
that's needed, you know, historical data that you'd like, maybe all the positions that a particular individual
Yeah.
worked over the years,
Yeah.
if you're bringing over
Yeah.
something from another system.
Well, and record retention requirements are quite
Mhm.
different in the
Yeah,
public sector.
absolutely.
In many cases, it's 50 years of data
Right.
that you're holding on
Wow.
to. So I completely agree with you as it relates to that, is that there's a big piece of that. Also, I think there's a misconception that there's no integration in an ERP solution. Like if I have an ERP that everything just talks to each other, that's not true.
Yeah.
Within an ERP solution, there's integration that's built in so
Yeah.
that the GL talks to the HR system, and then that feeds over maybe to your asset management system. But there is integration within an ERP. So don't get caught up in the belief that it's a single solution and it all just magically talks to each other out of the box.
Great point. You think about it like even tier one providers like cashiering, they may not have, some of them may not have utility billing, they may not have time clocks.
Yeah.
We manufacture all of our own, so everything that you do with your people systems is coming from UKG.
Mhm.
Awesome. Next
All right,
question.
So how do you address the low user adoption? Is the carrot or the stick approach best?
I think you use a little bit of the carrot and a little bit of the stick. You know, one of the things that that I did when I've worked for other organizations, and even when I was at the city, is you know, we were a completely manual paper-based system when I worked for the city of Denver. And one of the first things that we spent our time doing was really going around and understanding the pain points for our users. So we spent a great deal of time. I got an amazing person who worked with me at the city, and what we did is we went and talked to everyone. So we knew that. So then as we started to deploy our solution, we utilized that in our communication strategy. So when we saw resistance around the utilization of the system, we brought back the issues that they were trying to solve, that they said were really important to them. That's the stick part of it, you know. And so we were able to say, listen, we're providing you what you asked for. We met with you, we talked about this. So I do think it's important, and a really strong communication strategy. Employees need to understand the why.
Right.
Managers need to understand the why. So many times, and this happens all the time in government, a solution is purchased by senior level leadership, and then it's handed over, and I say, here, Jamie, this is your new technology platform. And so there's not a good change management approach. There's not a good communication strategy. That is so, so important if you want to get user adoption. User adoption, again, doesn't come just by buying new technology and rolling it out.
Yeah, and it's just really easy to get kind of stuck in their process, the way of doing things. So we've got to like reshape that future state,
Yes.
and that's just like keeping them focused on the prize. I think it empowers the employee and it empowers supervisors. That's how the tools are designed.
Absolutely.
How do you do this practically? You know, like you said, within 6 months, UKG can be live
Sure,
in a
sure.
vanilla environment.
Yeah, right.
And then does change management happen after that? Do you tweak processes after? And who's doing this? Because there's different components, right? You may not have the firepower in-house
Yep.
Yep.
take on that kind of change.
Yeah, that it's important. You don't want to take old processes
Yeah.
that may not be adapted to modern cloud technology. So we don't want to replicate that
Correct.
into a brand new product. So there is some discretion, and we provide some of that with our implementation projects. But our solution integrators and service partners would gladly help with that. And I know you offer services around helping organizations do that too.
Right.
So it's important. If you do it on the backside, the risk you have is that we just configured on the old process. So we try to do that on the front as best we can.
When I'm always careful with timelines like 6 months. So I think that, you have to be realistic based off of the organization. Now, do I think that it should take 3 to 5 years? No. But do I think that 6 months can be very quick? Yes. And that is also part of the challenge that you have when you're working with government customers, is that a lot of times they are looking for that rapid, well, come in here, get us stood up in 6 months. But the reality of the situation is, how prepared is that organization? Because if they are not prepared to take on the work that's going to be necessary to do that. To Jamie's point, having a really good implementation partner is important as well, because you're going to want that consultation. The more you're thinking about those things on the front end, so you're not just configuring the software, because we see that all the time. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Y2K and when everybody freaked out. And a lot of times what happened in government at that time, we did it at the city. They literally took their mainframe technology and just plopped it into the PeopleSoft solution back then, and then blamed PeopleSoft when it didn't work right. It's because we never took the time to actually do what we needed to do properly. So I do think that you've got to be careful when customers always want to know, how long is it going to take? Well, it depends, and it really does depend based on your organization, where you are in your process. Have you done your pre-analysis to know what you're going to be doing? That defines the success of a project. Customers put so much on the technology vendor and the SI and take very little responsibility oftentimes in the process. It's a partnership, and when you approach it as a partnership, you're going to be much more successful.
Yeah, I think those 6 to 9 month scenarios are somebody that does understand their business processes, have documented those business
Done all
processes.
the pre-work. Yeah.
They have a designated team, the project team leadership at the client side. They've got subject matter experts from each of the domains, HR, payroll, time, scheduling, and some IT presence there for any data retrieval. So yeah, it's not always that way.
Right.
Any drift that we see is because they're doing day jobs.
Yes.
We realize that.
Yep.
And that's traditionally where that will take place.
Absolutely.
Well, and we like to say that, you all have day jobs at the client side, and also defining what done means to them is very important, because you're right, you're done in 6 months.
Right.
But the definition of done and what defines success needs to be up front and central, and that's what people should be driving towards,
They
regardless of
absolutely
vendor.
should. Totally agree. Yeah.
We want raving outcomes. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Raving fans.
Awesome.
Retention is a growing challenge in public safety. How does UKG support efforts to improve job satisfaction and reduce turnover?
I'd say one of the things that we do, Jamie's kind of alluded to it a couple of times, is the analysis around things like fatigue and understanding shifts and statuses. And we've done some work with correctional facilities, also really struggle with retention and even attracting employees. Those are hard jobs. One of my old HR colleagues, she said, in government, we don't get to say, I don't like this client and just quit. These are our customers, these are our clients. And so I think a lot of it is the analysis of the data, coming up with ideas on how we can help from those staffing and really monitoring, doing trend analysis, understanding the impact. That's a big part of what we're starting to see. It's not going to change the fact that those jobs are hard and dangerous, but at least if you can maybe create a little more of a work-life balance, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's just being at the pulse of having surveys and things of that nature as well. Very, very telling of where that employee is at that moment.
Yeah.
So we can action some of those feedbacks as well.
Thank you.
And in your all's opinion, what is the root cause of payroll exceptions?
Well, I will say the
Go,
root
go,
cause,
go,
yeah.
Lack of money.
Yeah, after doing 30 years of payroll. I would say that the root cause of payroll issues are workforce management. When you don't have the right system on the front end, it's why I believe so strongly in the power of our solution. And one of those things that also differentiates us in the marketplace is the idea that any ERP, any technology platform can do time and attendance. That's not the hard part. It's really understanding the complexity behind the workforce. And when you're doing real-time validation, real-time rule calculation, so I can see in the moment what's happening and the cause and effect of those rules, that's going to help me have a much cleaner payroll. Most organizations that I talk to, when they have a robust workforce management on the front end, they cut their payroll processing time down to days. I mean, we process payroll at the city for 13,000 employees, and it took us a day to process the payroll because we did all of our pre-work through the workforce management solution on the front end.
Crucially important because we see a lot of it pushed downstream to a special payroll calculation, and by that time, you couldn't react to any of those changes.
No.
And you also can't react to like overtime inflated situations where maybe you can augment the schedule to avoid some of the overtime expense.
Absolutely.
But that's all front side.
All, yeah.
Have you seen situations or implementations where the simplicity of a modern solution has led to back-end process in codes and law improvement? Because some of these things are complicated because the council said it needs to be this way.
Yes.
Or commission said it needs to be this way.
Right.
Or a union, negotiate a certain contract.
When you look at, sometimes we'll look at the crazy rules that have been negotiated.
Yeah.
And I think in those cases there is sometimes a little bit of maybe reflection to say we can't even be in compliance with that because there's not a technology platform that can do an if and or then type of statement that makes any sense. And so then it creates manual calculations. So I do think that, again, if you're open to it and you're willing to take a look at it, you can maybe take a step back and say, maybe we need to improve this to ensure compliance too, because they spend all that time negotiating these rules and then you can't actually enforce them because there's just no way anybody can configure that into a technology
It has to be
platform.
triggered. There has to be some logic to trigger that.
Has to be logic, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen timekeeping projects not go off the ground because the fire department and the police, couldn't define why their workday is 24 hours and 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And good luck programming that into any software, right?
Exactly.
So all comes down to policy, all comes down to what processes you want to improve. And the key point I think here is that, again, these aren't technology projects.
No.
These help you reflect deeply on why you've been doing business a certain way.
Yes.
Why you have these commission rules and codes.
Right.
And in the process of upgrading software, you kind of have to upgrade the whole organization at the same time.
The perfect
Everybody needs to
time.
be in there at the table for sure, providing their insight.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What should clients expect from the vendor support team post-implementation?
That's a great question. So I'm going to answer it one way. We'll see how Jamie answers it. What I think is it's really important to continue working with your implementation partner post go live. Most problems that happen after an implementation, again, are rarely a technology issue. It's a configuration issue. It's something that happened during implementation. Maybe a role didn't get configured properly. Maybe there's a tweak that needs to happen. So I really strongly encourage kind of what you were talking about is done. So the configuration is done, and maybe you've done some user acceptance testing, but until it's really out there, you don't always know what you don't know every situation. So managed services, I think, are really a great feature to work with your implementation partner on for a period of time afterwards. Then from that point, then I would expect the type of support you get from your vendor on the software side of it. That's really for true technical glitches in the software. You should expect them to understand your needs and to be looking on how we're going to improve the product for the future. And so being really engaged, customers, their voices need to be, for us to hear your voice, you have to speak up. And a lot of times customers don't bring those issues to us. But I would say, in my opinion, a lot of times it's really more around the implementation. So I would look to my implementation partner for a period of time after implementation, and then you look to your software vendors for ongoing support.
I think it goes back to also the client skill set. So that's really important, is to make sure we've got the right alignment of what the need's going to be.
Yeah.
So running multiple payroll cycles in parallel at the end of the project, that's crucial. But that transition to support, we've had some restructuring within our organization to provide additional hands-on there as well, to manage that ongoing client journey. But from a support standpoint, like Linda said, that should be for traditional support stuff. It should not be carryover from implementation.
Yeah.
Right, and so again, back to what's done, right? It can't be the partner's definition, nor can it be UKG's.
Nope.
The client needs to define what done means.
Yes.
And so in that case, is the escalation path through the implementation partner, and at what point do you get involved, right? Because there's obviously back and forth, and we're involved in projects that have not necessarily UKG, but that have an SI that is being non-responsive.
Yeah.
And the client then has UKG in their head as the ones that are not being responsive. How do you deal with that?
Our partner model is so different. I mean, I really give our partner team so much credit because we embrace our SIs into our UKG family. So we are not in the traditional finger pointing, because I know exactly what you're talking about, where it's, well, it's not my fault, go talk to the software provider. Well, it's not my fault, go talk to your implementation provider. That's not how we operate. And so there's two different models. If we've done the implementation ourselves, because UKG does implement their own technology, then you're going to work through our team, and you're going to have a contact person. You're going to have a customer service manager or an ERM who's going to be there to support. Our sales reps are very engaged with our customers as well. If you're working with one of our SIs and it's partner direct, well, we have partner managers who work with them so that we can make sure that there is not that finger pointing that's happening between the two. So whether you come to us with the issue and we go to the partner, or you go to the partner and maybe the partner comes to us, you're never going to be in a situation where you're going to get this finger pointing thing.
Yeah, there's ongoing oversight. Like those partner managers that we
Yes.
have, there's intimate knowledge with our implementation partners as well. So there's paths of escalation for sure.
Excellent. That's good to hear, because it's really crucial, right? You can't be.
You don't just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have
have
one
more?
more.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's,
go.
It's a long one, so
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna
Okay.
try to-
All right.
No, it's good. It's good. With mobile-first technology, employees like pilots and guest service agents who rarely work in traditional office settings now have 24/7 access to critical HR information. And the question is mobile becoming a must-have or what?
Just look at the percentage of jobs that are applied to on a mobile device, 70+%. Just think about that for a minute. So it is commonplace. It's an expectation of most applicants. The day in the life in HR, to be able to go look at your pay stub, to make a vacation plans with your wife on a weekend. You could have rules that built in allow you to take that time off. If you have that in your PTO bank, it can approve that. If there's proper coverage within the schedule, so there's a lot of things that are looking at. But it's all happening in real time, and you're empowered, and that's part of that connection point of technology and the person that we're really trying to do a good job with.
I think the balance, though, in that is that there has to be a mind shift for the employees, because in traditional government settings, a lot of resistance to mobile-based technology is because employees want to be reimbursed for their mobile then. And most governments moved away from the idea of reimbursing, and so a lot of times you'll see a resistance to mobile technology, not because they don't want to use the mobile, but because now they've got to figure out, well, do we issue the phones? Do the employees, are they able to use their own phones? So, I mean, to Jamie's point, 100% I think mobile is a must, because that's a computer you're walking around with. There aren't many people on the planet today that don't have a cell phone attached to their hand. So it's a great way to conduct business. But there is a balance in all of that, as well as the expectations between you and your employee and access to data, who pays for it, who doesn't pay for it. So there's a lot that's still, there's some policy work that I think has to be done for it to really be effective. But I would agree, I think I'd do the policy work, because mobile is a smart way to go. So
yeah, and keep it. It's like the whole goal of HR is like Maslow's theory to move from dealing with all the administration of the practice to dealing with more strategic elements of it. The only way that's going to happen is to stop the calls coming to HR and payroll.
With the power
Empower
of the
your
hands,
employee and managers,
Absolutely.
and get to work, doing the good work of
Yeah.
making every location and locality great.
Yeah.
I have a question,
Yeah.
if I might.
Yeah.
If UKG were to sum up its mission in one word, or just a few words, what would those words be?
Well, I think it's our tagline, our purpose is people. I really do think that the direction of our organization has been to be a people-first technology, because at the end of the day, that is what our solutions are all about. They're human capital management. It's about the human side of the technology, and I'd say, our tagline fits that.
Yeah, that's dead on, and meeting people where they are, wherever they are, whoever they are. So being a leader for all, and just finding a path through. We're all humans in this, and we just want to have a fulfilling career, and we have families at home, and there's other things that are going on in everybody's life, but we want to make it as easy as possible for them to do their jobs and do it well.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, unless you have other comments or questions for me.
But
Thank
you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. If you have other follow-up questions for the UKG's public sector leadership, please send them in, and we would be happy to pass them on to Jamie and Linda. But thanks for watching. Thanks for your questions. We go live every week. This broadcast will be on our YouTube channel if you want to catch it again. And please send us your thoughts. Please tell us what you think we should do next. And then we'll be back with another vendor showcase. And we're here if you are a public sector agency looking to choose between various different providers. If you're looking to do the pre-work that Linda was talking about, business process redesign, thinking about integrations and data migration, and what order should you replace your aging ERP or HRIS infrastructure, please call us. We're here for you at all times. Jamie, Linda, thank you for making the trip out.
Thank you.
And,
Absolutely.
Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Take care.